Review my story, or outright hell-bent. Oh, never mind.
Hello and welcome to this short podcast. Well, maybe short podcast review.
Well,
I don't know.
yeah, you
haven't
don't
recorded
know.
it yet. But welcome to this
See into the
podcast review
future.
of Time Crash. So, a couple of years ago, we did a Born Again, which was the little Children in Need segment where, so they used to, sadly don't anymore, but they used to write a special thing for Doctor Who.
Every so often.
For Children in Need. I think there was one other, or no, it was the trailer for End of Time actually, or a clip from it. I think
Wasn't there one during the Moffat era? I thought there was at least one.
they did ones for Red Nose Days, like Space and Time,
Yeah.
and I think they did a Sport Relief one, but that was like a kid came up with it, so it was just okay at best.
Yeah.
But can't blame it, kid. But like, yeah, I wish they still did stuff like this because, boy, this is a magical piece written by Moffat.
Yeah.
Written by Stephen Moffat, which threw me off when we were watching
Yeah.
it.
Well, I knew it was Moffat, but yeah, I didn't know you hadn't realised.
I definitely knew it at some point, but it's just one of those things that I kind of forget.
You don't necessarily think about it. You're right.
But like, damn, this is magical, and you can see where he got a lot of one. It's kind of his own love letter to the Fifth Doctor,
And it's David Tennant's as well.
Yeah,
really.
And like, I know David Tennant watched a lot of the Fourth Doctor, but yeah, he was definitely there for the Fifth Doctor as well, and like. Yeah, it's like when it's like, oh, you were my Doctor. I know that Stephen Moffat has always talked kind of highly of Peter Davison's Doctor. And yeah, like, oh, it's all dialogue, all in one set, yet it's not boring for one moment.
Well, it's not very long, so...
No. Oh, I just wish it was longer, like, I wish they'd gone on a mini adventure. Because it's the perfect reason, like, you look a bit saggy, and, but that's because of me. Like, it means that whenever... multi-Doctor stories happen now, it makes sense that they look older.
Yeah, which makes it kind of a little bit of a shame that they never did any further ones like this, because they're given an explanation for it now, so...
Well, Moffat did the explanation, and suddenly the 50th, but the 50th story works.
Yeah.
It
does.
With this.
Which
our Day of a Doctor podcast review was just released not long ago.
We hope.
When this is released.
Because yeah, the thing's not done yet.
So go watch that and see what we think. But yeah, so this is like the first awesome time where like the two have collided properly. Like the classic era and the new era. Like this is the first time where it's really crossed over.
Well, it's really the only time that the heroes have necessarily interacted. Because while we got Night of the Doctor, that's kind of still
like the Passover.
Yeah, but there's no actual crossover between the Doctors though. Like you know, this is the only time that's happened in the modern era, and that's a shame to some extent. You kind of yeah, unless you count the creator, I guess, kind of counts, but. Maybe not. Yeah. I don't know. But
there was left ambiguous on purpose. Night of the Doctor was just special as well. Like it's when they do that, when they go back and they get a past Doctor to come back and do something short. It's nice. Yeah,
it's great. And I mean, this is, he flips back right into the role. I mean, he's obviously older, but Peter Davison.
Well, professional actors should be able to, and it's nice that you can see it. Which is why when Christopher Eccleston's like, oh, I don't think I could get back into the role, I'm like, but this is your job to be able to do that. Like, but...
I think he just doesn't want to.
I think it was more that, like, rather than rubbish like that. But, I don't know. Thing is, the longer we go on in this new era of Doctor Who means the more multi-Doctor stories we could have. Because, I mean, we got David and Matt, who would definitely probably come back for the right story. Yeah. Capaldi probably would need a little bit convincing because he just finished his era.
Yeah, although I don't think we'd get another multi-Doctor for another
The
probably
Eighth Doctor
5+
could
years.
always come back because, like, from what we've seen of the Eighth Doctor, he regenerated when he was looking a whole lot older than he was in his TV movie appearance. Like, you know, he's obviously been the Eighth Doctor for a very long time.
Yes.
So yeah, but just the dialogue here just flows really well.
Oh yeah, it's perfectly witty and not particularly like I mean they talk about a whole cataclysmic disaster, but it doesn't.
The size of Belgium.
Yeah. Well, but it doesn't really feel like that as you watch the episode. But that's not really what's important here. That's just kind of a backdrop as to and an explanation. What's important here is the dialogue between them, and it's really good. It's really solid. Moffat, especially in this era, always wrote very, very solid dialogue, and the whole Fifth Doctor not quite getting it and whatnot. Yeah, it's funny to watch. Although, aren't the Doctors kind of meant to sense that? I thought it was, that the other one.
I think they could always sense other Time Lords, but I guess when it's yourself, how would you ever sense yourself? Because you never have to sense your own presence because it's always there. You'd feel comfortable around every person.
Yeah.
I think it works like that, and I mean, I think he does have a kind of general idea. It's more like wishing not to. I mean, like John Hurt was like, "Who are you?" and thought like the Doctors or the companions,
That's true.
You don't expect to exactly come across yourself ever.
No, well, you're not meant to.
Exactly. So yeah. So, but yeah, I love the child. I love just how enjoyable it is, and how happy it is, especially before what comes after on Christmas.
Yeah.
The Voyage of the Damned, which is kind of a complete.
Oh, when was this done? This was
opposite.
what?
November 2007.
So yeah, there's a bit of a gap between them. And yeah, I just like the premise of the fact that, between the episodes, they have a little extra bit in between, even despite us already seeing, what's happening next. So you could technically just go from, Last of the Time Lords to Voyage of the Damned with no problem. But at the same time, you could always watch this in between, and it's, fun little. And yeah, it's just a fun little exchange. I mean, I guess there's not so much to say about it as such. Yeah, it's just a fun little episode. It's really great to see Peter Davison back in the role.
I just wish they could do that. Just 2 Doctors. It really works just having 2 Doctors.
Yeah.
In an episode, because it's just more than that, and it can be a bit hard to kind of maneuver. Like in the 5 Doctors, I mean, they clearly were they split them all up for most of it until they came together at the end. And the 3 Doctors, there was really only 2.
They did though recently.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess that is it. I mean, I did say before that they never really interacted, but I guess we tried to forget that episode, but that's also not actually technically a classic. Well, it is a classic Doctor, but it's not.
Written wrong.
It's written wrong, and it's not the same actor. I mean, as great as performance as David Bradley is, it's not. It doesn't feel quite as closely connected, I suppose.
I think that was down to the dialogue used rather than the acting. I believe there was some times where I was like, yeah, it's the first Doctor, it was just there, especially when he had that conversation with Bill. And it's like,
absolutely.
Why did you leave? And it's like, and he gives his kind of his theory about good and evil. If there's good is not a survival tactic, yet how can it sometimes rain? Come through. Well, and that was really cool.
Well, at the same time though, when you first see the first Doctor, he's actively avoiding trying to interfere and whatnot. So it's
he just wanted to view it. He wanted to see it, I guess. And I guess going to Earth, you could see good and evil and study it. It's interesting. Yeah. I don't know, but it's like that dialogue. It's you've got to be very careful when writing multi-Doctor stories that you do stick to their characteristics. It'd be interesting to see. I don't know. See, Jodie and Ten would just get on like a house on fire.
Well, they'd just be the same, wouldn't they?
They pretty much, yeah, it would be. But yeah, that's pretty much all we got to say about this one. Really, I think it's just a really lovely piece of.
Yeah, it's just a
sci-fi drama.
a nice enclosed piece with 2 Doctors in it. which in itself is already always great to see.
Do more of this.
But don't do it like Twice Upon a Time.
Yeah, that's your 2 rules. Do it like Time Crash, not Twice Upon a Time.
Yeah.
Anything
Jeez,
else?
Moffat could write. I think this really does show the difference between Moffat sometimes. It's like you can write an episode like this, and then you can write an episode like Twice Upon a Time.
Well, you did better when you had less time to establish anything.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's just more focused, I think.
Well,
That and the fact that he had like, considerably less to write, and he had. I don't know if he'd had more time to write it, but he had
8 minutes isn't
enough time to write what he needed to write, as opposed to Twice Upon a Time, which he hashed out a Christmas script, like
really quickly to get it produced.
Basically, yeah. Which led to a ton of issues with that. But I don't really want to think about that episode because it just makes me sad.
Definitely not. So
Peter Capaldi regenerated at the end of Series 10. Yeah.
There was no other episode. But thank you very much for listening. Our podcast review of Voyage of the Damned is this year's Christmas special. Bet you didn't see that coming after the last 2 years being the first 2. What a surprise. So, there you go. This is the little stocking filler, as we called it last time, I think.
Did we?
For Born Again, yeah. I think you were like, it's the little stocking filler. Is what you said.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, so this is
Good job, me.
Good job, me from the past. High fives. Oh,
you missed. God damn it.
Yeah, it's basically the end of Time Crash. Just the good job. And just the high five. But yeah,
that's the only thing that crashed.
High five. Got left hanging. Though the wibbly wobbly timey wimey thing, I was a bit like, nah. Why would the 5th Doctor say that? That's the 10th Doctor thing.
Well, it doesn't mean the 5th Doctor doesn't know the
Never
phrase.
thought about it.
Yeah.
They never said it. I don't
It's just
know.
at the back of his head somewhere.
So like that. I liked actually when he mentioned Linda. That was a cool line.
Also, actually, one thing I wanted to point out was that there might be a slight because actually, well, this is somewhat established later on in another Moffat script, but how would this originally have been thought out? The way that time works, the Doctor would have had to have, because he said he saw it from watching him, but who would have done it in the first place? Because otherwise,
the bootstrap.
Yeah, who would have found that out in the first place? Because he wouldn't be able to know that, done that, and remembered that if it didn't happen in the first place. So how does it happen in the first place?
Well, it's just because that small moment is caught in an infinite circle. No one ever actually originally came up with it.
But how does it occur in the first place, though?
Because he always saw the future version. That's just the issue.
Yeah, but something must have established that to be. This is complicated time. It was Beethoven.
It just goes in a circle. So you're like, well, how is it established? Because he saw the future, and then how did the future one see it? Because the guy eventually. But
it must have occurred in the first place because something must have caused that to happen in the first place because it couldn't have.
No, he's always just seen a future version. There's never a timeline.
This is kind of the whole thing about what was it like? Which episode was it that Peter Capaldi was talking about?
It was Under the Lake and Before the Flood.
Who wrote Beethoven's first?
Yeah, I think 5th. Beethoven's 5th.
5th.
Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They directly go do that, but he hints in that one that he was the one who did it in the first place, wasn't it?
No, he didn't write it. So what he's saying is he loved Beethoven's 5th, and he goes back to meet him, but then he can't find him anywhere, and it's like, oh my god, a world which doesn't exist without the music. Here's the music. Just take the credit. You could be Beethoven. The Doctor didn't write it. The Doctor just listened to it
and
gave
it
sheet music. It's the same.
But at the very end, he goes like, "Who wrote it in the first place?" And with
he shrugs as in like, no one knows. Like it's one of those things. I think because he couldn't have written it because he wouldn't have known how to write in it. Because he loved it so much. You can't write something without knowing it and then love it. Like that's the thing. It's a paradox in some ways.
Yeah, it is. It's entirely a paradox because something must have triggered it in the first place.
Well, that's the thing. It's always the future. That's the thing. When the future and the past connect, then like kind of a rule book goes out the window.
I guess you could just explain it away with like different parallel universes as such. To if you believe in that theory, where everything creates a different parallel universe, then technically, the same things can happen. Because but nevertheless, something must have triggered it, I guess, in the first place. But it could be a completely different timeline to begin with.
No, because they don't cross. No, it's confusing because it goes round in a circle. So the past will always look at the future and get the thing. Like, there's never a starting point for that information. It's just somehow appears.
Yeah, but how does it somehow just appear?
Because they've just always learned it from the future. That's the issue. That's
yeah, but that couldn't have happened if it didn't happen to begin with.
It always has happened.
Yeah, but it also simultaneously hasn't happened because at the
start
of it couldn't have happened.
Yeah, but the fact is that they solved it means that it happened. And like, no matter what happens, it always happens. So they
but if it was,
I know you're saying
if at the beginning, at the original point of origin, if it continued like that,
but there's just no point of origin. That's the issue. There's never a starting point, and there's never an end point. It's just a continuous loop. It's a time loop.
Yeah, but then again, as I said, but then what makes it occur in the first place? What makes it become a thing?
The past and the future coming together in one moment. That is what sets off the bomb, and then those minutes where they're together is a time loop, and then it passes. So anything that happens in that time is kind of rule books out the window. Nothing can incur what happens, because like if you came in now and told yourself something, and then from that point you knew about it, like where did that originally come from? Like, because now you know the information that your future self has told you, but then you knew
it's very complicated.
There's a
lot of different layers to it.
The rule book goes out the window. There's not an initial point. When the past and future come together, there is no like. So in an explosion, there's the thing which sparks, and then there's the explosion, and then it ends.
Yeah.
In this, it's a continuous. There's no spark. There's no end. It's just a continuous explosion, and that's what it is. It's continuous. It just goes round and round and round and round.
Yeah.
And then you can walk into the explosion and you can walk out of it, but that explosion will never end. Like once you enter that bubble, it's a different rule book.
Yeah. I guess that makes sense depending on the theory of time you subscribe to, of course.
Yeah.
Because there's lots of different variations to that, and
the issue is we can't really test this theory.
No, absolutely not. You can't test any of them, really.
Yeah. So it's all fiction, really.
Yeah, it's all
proven.
Yeah, because my theory, my thing about it could make sense. Your thing about it could make sense. Again, it just depends.
They both. Like when you look at the rule book, yours makes sense. But if you throw the rule book out the window,
it doesn't.
Then it makes no sense. Like it makes then.
Yeah, the only way for this to make sense is if it subscribes to your theory. So let's. I guess we go with that for the moment. Just assume that's right. But
well, what do you guys think? Let's read your log.
What, we went on for like 7 minutes talking about time theories and whatnot.
Well, this is a Doctor Who podcast show, and it was going to happen at one point.
Yeah, it probably has happened already.
I mean, the reason why I definitely used the timey-wimey in it is because it was so popular in Blink, which was
Blink,
which was only a couple of months prior to this. I always think like Blink was aired in October, but it wasn't. It was like June.
Which is kind of weird.
I always think like October, Halloween. Yeah, Weeping Angels.
Just something scary.
But yeah.
But no, it wasn't.
That's it. Thank you very much for listening. The Voyage of the Dam will be out at some point. I give this a 10 out of 5.
I give it as thick as celery out of Titanic.
Yeah.
That's best number systems.
Yeah, so you can either rate it rubbish beard or stick of celery. Or put your hat back on. What do you rate it?
Or turn the shields back on.
Turn the shields back on. That is our final rating. Time Crash, turn the shields back on. Thank you very much for listening. We'll see you soon, or not. Maybe you don't like us.
Yeah.
But
I don't like us.
I know, it's a sad life. But anyway, thank you very much for listening. Boy!
Oi! It wasn't even a boy. That was just a...